Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Casper Energy Services. Casper Energy Services prides itself on a culture of success.
You never know how long it's going to take an NFL team to get its new quarterback into the starting lineup. I mean, if you look at history, some teams want to give guys all the time they need to grow and learn the games. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, who I think is the best quarterback in the league right now, that isn't named Russell Wilson. He started a year on the bench behind Alex Smith. If you look at Cincinnati, you got Joe Burrow, and he's come in and he's looked awesome. He's electric, he's fun to watch, and he's doing it all with a bad offensive line. So the LSU star has lived up to expectations so far early in his career. Then you got Justin Herbert of the Chargers. The Chargers drafted him number 6 overall, and he was going to be the guy that comes in and replaces Phillip Rivers. But in the meantime, he was going to be on the bench, and he was going to be behind Tyrod Taylor. Now, Tyrod Taylor started, and in a game against Kansas City, he fractured his ribs. So what the doctor did, they wanted to give him a painkiller with a needle, and when they injected, they missed the area, the ribs, and they punctured his lung. So he goes out. This week they said, okay, you're now the starter. So poor Taylor's, who had a rough history of injuries, is on the sideline once again. The Chargers said, well, not everyone's perfect. And I was waiting for a lawsuit, but apparently the NFL can't be, or the NFL teams can't get hit with a malpractice suit because these team doctors aren't part of the organization. They work for them, but aren't part of the organization, so they say. Now, there's a lot of conflict for a doctor to be involved in pro sports. And because of that, you have the owners, the old school owners that want to win at all costs, tape his leg back on, get him out there because we've got to win. There's big money at stake. So there's a conflict. See, these doctors, they want to help the players, but they are subservient to the big money. The doctors are working for the teams and the owners. So there's a lot of pressure. Now, one NFL player said he would walk in on crutches on game day, and there would be all these syringes of Toradol. And he said between Toradol and Vicodin, he'd get enough to get him through the game. But don't forget, the long-term use of this stuff, it has heart failure and kidney failure problems. But it was getting through the game. After the game, he was back on crutches because the painkillers moved off. So it was win at all costs. Don't forget, these players are sometimes their own worst enemies because they have a small window of opportunity, A, to be part of a team, and part of the recognition and the big bucks. So play at all costs. Get me back in, coach. I'll take whatever you want. It catches up with them later. TSN recently ran a great documentary on pain. And Ryan Kessler, formerly of the Vancouver Canucks, said he used to take Toradol just to get through it. He said, I wasn't going to let the team down. He was worried about the now. He wasn't worried about the future. And what happened with him, he developed colitis. So basically he said Toradol ate through his colon. He now has Crohn's disease, and he now has to take prescription drugs to fight that. So it's a vicious, vicious circle. He said, I wasn't going to be the one to let the team down, and if I had a chance, I'd do it again. Now, if you look back, it was well documented, Derek Boogaard was addicted to painkillers. Here he was, one of the biggest guys and toughest guys in the NHL. He got hooked on all kinds of prescription drugs. And that was what they said caused him to commit suicide. In 1 month, this guy took 1,000 prescription drugs. He had as many as 8 doctors prescribing him drugs. 700 of those were painkillers. He had other drugs in there to make him sleep. It was a vicious circle. It was like Elvis. Remember Elvis? He had to take uppers and downers, and he'd wake up, he'd come down, and doctors would give him whatever he wanted because there was some prestige to it, being Elvis Presley's doctor. Same with being in the NFL or the NHL. Doctors want to be part of the team, and they'll give these guys the prescription drugs that they want and need. It was interesting, I was watching, I believe it was in Florida, and it was the Tampa Bay Lightning medical team. And they contract through them to be their medical team. And I saw their commercials say, hey, we're the team of the Tampa Bay Lightning. We can be your medical team too. So you can see There's a conflict of interest somewhat, but there's a lot of pressure on doctors, and there's a lot of pressure to win. So as they say, the owners have an old school mentality, and they want to win at all costs. As for the players, sometimes they are the worst enemy. But you learn to trust a doctor. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't.
Geo's Men's in Calgary, providing Calgarians to look their best.